Well, hi everyone. I'm Daisy McGowan. I'm the director of GOCA, the UCCS Galleries of Contemporary Art. And for our virtual studio visit series, I'm very fortunate to have with us today Zhang. And C is based out of Salt Lake City. Of course, these are virtual, so in Utah, we can do these from anywhere, which is a real benefit of the online connecting. So thank you so much, C, for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Daisy. I really appreciate.
We're excited to talk to you and learn more about your work and share it with our community. We started these. This will be my seventh interview I've been doing with these, and they've been really very inspiring for me and really wonderful way to stay connected. As a curator, one of the favorite parts of my job is the studio visit. It's a very special point of connection with artists, and I do a lot of them with my partner Don. I know who is another artist who's a good friend of yours, of course, Don Fodness. Together, I think in 2018, I counted we did over 200 studio visits all over the country and some out of the country as well, I think, in Canada. But at any rate, we keep busy with those. And for me as a curator with contemporary art, it's really important. And it's hard to keep up with everything that's happening. And you've been an artist that I've been hoping to do an actual studio visit with someday soon. So I feel really lucky to do this today. So thanks so much for saying yes. For those, I sort of repeat this every time, but a studio visit is typically kind of an intimate experience, in the sense that it's a private space, it's not an exhibition space. And so definitely, looking at work in process is great if you want to talk about your process. But if you want to just start by sharing with us a little bit about your background and where you are making art right now.
Thank you, Daisy. And first of all, I really, really want to say I appreciate all the work that you and the other curators are doing because this current time, we need some sort of a bridge to connect all the individual artists. So I think many curators like yourself and my other friends are doing an excellent job to keep all the artists maintain the good level. And currently, I'm in Salt Lake City. I teach at University of Utah. I moved here about 3 or 4 years ago. It's been quite an interesting journey. I started my art career actually in China around 2000-ish, and attended a Beijing art academic back then. Then in 2004, I moved to Denver and for attending Rocky Mountain College of Art Design, met professors such as Clark Rickard, Anya, Marine. And then after graduating from Rocky Mountain College of Art Design, I get attend to University of Colorado at Boulder and met my very good friend Don Furness, and afterwards, then just being an independent artist for quite a few years, traveled here and there. About in 2016, I found a job opening in Salt Lake City at University of Utah because I quite enjoy the Rocky Mountain region in terms of practice, art practice, other also a spiritual practice, well, such as Tibetan Buddhism, which I'm really interested in. And then I decided to take the job offer here, then started my journey. Um, and in terms of my artwork, about 4 or 5 years, I've been working on this series called Mandalic Leaf Garden series. Um, this series is quite intimate. Um, I before working on this series, I've been trying to research could I use artwork, or more specific saying, could I use painting to creating a musical quality that connect with individuals through emotional response, such as for instance, when I heard music such as Pink Floyd. I know cheesy example in this scenario, but back then when I first time heard Pink Floyd in China, I was a foreigner. I mean, I don't know any English, And when I heard the music, I can have the intimate connection right away. And I realized it's not necessary from lyric because I don't know any,
Mm.
but I think it's the way how he constructs the music. I'm wondering, can painting do the same thing? I'm not talking about Martin's abstract expressionism. I'm talking maybe I can set up a scenario based on the imagery and mark making, then to let the viewer experience something they internally they have similar experience, such as uh, their parents might suffer from Alzheimer, and but they are keep for themselves. But right now, open a window, not necessarily to let them directly look at the Alzheimer, but more like theater, a painting, which is not photography, quote unquote, real documentary. It's more like theater, so therefore it's safer. Then in this safer environment, instead of I'm sorry this happened to you, but maybe creating sense of hope through maybe elements say, hey, you know what? As an Alzheimer patient, every time it's bless me visiting this Alzheimer patient. She's my grandma, could be my mom, your neighbor. But through this sort of a dialogue using the painting, we could connect to each other, feeling okay. We are not by ourselves. We are uh, deeply sharing unique experience. So therefore, we are not alone. So therefore, can see some hope from tough situation. I hope this makes some sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I pulled a few things out of that. First of all, talking about dementia and Alzheimer's and music, this connection that it's been found to be very therapeutic. And then thinking about painting as a sort of creating a space. And you talked about theater, and you talked about the structure of the music, and maybe like the emotional impact that you had when you heard it, because like you said, um, it wasn't the lyrics, because you didn't understand them, that were having that impact. And so that's a really interesting perspective. Talking with other artists, we often talk about how um, painting, let's say, as one example, visual art can leapfrog over written language, right? It can express uh, without verbal and written language. Of course, we have to use that to talk about it, right? That's why it can be hard for artists to talk about their art, I think, because they're operating in a different space. And I think musicians are similar. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And your paintings really do have this dreamlike theatrical quality and this emotional energy that um, there's a lot of complexity in your work, I think, but also sometimes I feel this like very powerful, simple emotional connection and response. And is that what you're talking about as far as trying to translate that experience you had with Pink Floyd as a young man, and then bringing that in, that maybe that emotional sort of connection versus a more literal or literate or written sort of verbal connection?
Absolutely, that's exactly I've been trying to achieve in this series. Thank you, Daisy.
What do you
And
call the series?
Metallic leaf garden. So basically, the inspiration is normally think about a garden, leaf garden is something quite organic, quite natural related. But when we think about metallic leaf, we automatically probably connect with something even on the frame, right? Something more scoped, something more symbolize a flower instead of the quote unquote real flower. So I'm wondering, when we have a garden, no real flower, just symbolized flower, fake flower, but still is flower. That in that sort of as a experience to reflecting how mind work. A lot of, for instance, we are looking at two objects. This, for instance, a cell phone. Then our mind also creating another idea of a cell phone, physical cell phone versus this thing in our mind. So I hope in this title to reflecting the characteristic of this body of work. Everything in those work, it's all through our mind, through our not photo document actual event. Does it
Yeah,
make sense?
so you're calling attention to the artifice or the, the simulacra of painting instead of pretending, or I don't want to say that artists that paint photorealistically are pretending, but there is an effort to mimic the natural, and that's an approach that you're taking a different angle and saying, I'm recognizing that what I'm doing is um, it's connecting to the natural world, but it's a simulacra of it, or a um, it's you're acknowledging it's painting this basically. Yeah.
And I always joking around. I think many painter I really enjoy the outliers because they have to use the lie to tell the real experience. That's one thing I think I really enjoy about painting. We know it is it's a theater, but through that theater we see the true experience.
So the true experience for you is maybe the actual emotional or imagination that your brain goes to when you connect with the painting. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes,
Yeah. Do you use music in your process, or can you talk a little bit about your process?
absolutely. So a lot of time some of the work might be started about 8 years ago in terms of idea. So normally, what inspired me could be again some trauma or difficulty among around me and my friends, myself even related. But again, I really just take that writing down as a note, then let it sink into my subconscious. Truly feel what's that feelings like, then let it grow in that part experience is finding the right element to represent actual experience. Might take very long. For instance, sometimes a painting I just finished, then I realized, looking back at my notes, that was quite many years ago, even before I graduated from grad school. And or sometimes could be very fast. For instance, current current situation like the coronavirus, this everyone is having anxiety, and that we all respond to another person's health, another person's economic status. All those complexity layer creating a quite unease feeling of that. How do I represent that? Then, as soon as I saw, the people covered with a white sheet,
Mm.
take it to cremation that become a symbol uh, to depicting the complexity of the emotion. Because during Halloween, when we trying to creating a ghost, funny ghost, creating the white sheet of blankets. That's a funny aspect of it. But really, that we also call that ghost. But right now, in currently in such a difficult situation, the funniness is gone. Become quite a seriousness. One symbol carry on uh, two emotional response. At the same time, how this respond, I think what I felt in today, it's everything become a multiple layer to looking at it. Some people think it's too much to do the social distance and think it's offending their freedom. But for others, think about in what degree when we're talking about freedom is not it's no longer just how should I put it the right way? We cannot just call the freedom then going to be step on someone else's life. So
Right.
one element carry on do aspect that the white sheet become a symbol right away merge into my work. Very quick, very quick.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw this work that you had posted online that's behind you. Um, is this a recent painting then? It's in response, like you're saying. Yeah. So, and I have this experience frequently when I see your work when you post, and you work very prolifically. You create a lot of, you generate a lot of paintings. And but I quite frequently have such a intense emotional response. And for this work behind you, I felt very sort of it's very soothing in a way, but then it's also disturbing. And you have this really lovely or really interesting way of balancing different sort of emotions within a painting. And there's like I referenced a dreamlike quality earlier. And so it makes sense to me when you talk about your process of sort of sitting with an emotion and a feeling. And for you, are there visuals that come out of that? Do you start with drawing, or do you really move what's your process as far as how it comes about to become a painting?
Excellent question. Thank you, Daisy. Actually, yes, you are right. When I have the emotion like sink into my subconscious, I need to find the right representation or the element to represent it. Sometimes could be several ways. One way is that I just sit in front of the painting for hours or days without touch it. Just think, see what can come to represent that particular experience. For instance, there's one painting. It's against about my grandma, and she pretty much lost all her memory, cannot respond to anything, almost like Alzheimer, but different disease. And I was trying to think what kind of depicting all my family, how we feel about seeing her. And then I just look at the painting. I finished the basic gesture of her sitting on the chair. Then I just know we need an element to transform the whole painting to the experience that she cannot really talk. She might be want to communicate, but cannot communicate at all. Then just sit in front of it. And suddenly in my subconscious, spark come. It's a bell. I said, wow, what if she is a music box? She cannot do anything. Maybe through subtle movement, she could communicate through a music instruments, which could be a bell when you calling someone. But in this case, I decorate her become a music box by putting all the bells around her. Then I felt, wow, that's exactly right emotion I would like to depicting how I feel and my family member feel in the moment. Or sometimes is that this particular, for some paintings, when I have the feelings, again, sinking into my subconscious, I just go public space, take buses, and just keep my cell phone with me all the time. Then somehow, suddenly I see an object or see someone exactly represent what I want to say. For instance, for quite a while, I felt, the one thing I think about United States for a long time, American dreams and American dream, and that's trapped everybody come to United States to achieve this American dream. But as far as what I've been told, that everyone will be equal. If we work hard, we will be maintained a middle class startup. But looking in today, and I have a colleague who is an assistant professor, still need to drive Uber to maintain pay to pay a bill. It's like, wow, interesting. That's what we are facing right now. And where I'm meeting my close circle, everyone seemingly is either struggling financially or emotionally. That's not what I've been told when I was in China. Uh, the American dream will bring to us. Now, trying to find what's the right symbol to represent that this new experience. Then one day again, take on the train to my university working. And I see everyone's the head is tilted, look on the phone. I was like, whoa, that's the right gesture. So I use that gesture for the fundamental design. Then again, use another mask to cover their face, since everyone now on talking, trying to maintain social distance. That's before this happened. I feel people are really disconnected. Right now we are more connected because everyone communicate because we are physical distant. But before is that everyone so close that no one want to communicate. just sinking into the dark world. I said, wow, American Dreamer. That's a painting I'm going to do.
That's wow. Yeah, it's so interesting. Uh, well, there's a lot there, but I love hearing about how you process and sort of move through the world and really are sifting for this, like kind of the visuals. It sounds like it's a very visual process for you, and you sort of know it when you see it, and then it inspires the work. Um, but I also really appreciate that point about how maybe right now we're actually more connected because everything has shifted for us, and it's highlighting this. You know, we're not in physical. We're not taking it for granted. But then also being on that visual of being on a bus, I think we can all relate to being somewhere where everybody's looking at their phone, and so you're in a space, you know, shared space, but you're completely disconnected.
Absolutely. That's about teaching too. Sometimes I was in a classroom and some students,
Oh
and
yeah.
on the phone, like, they're so disconnected.
Yeah, and you're trying to, you know, I feel like so much of this crisis has forced us all to think, well, just be in the moment more, you know, um, because we have lost a lot of control over what does tomorrow look like, you know. We still are waiting to hear this news or that news, or what can we do, what can't we do. But I really appreciate you sharing that part of your process. It makes sense. Um, it it has to be hard to describe, you know. So I appreciate your walking us through that, because when I was listening to you, I was thinking, how do you articulate to somebody that you know, this process of looking basically, and that's really an artist, right? You see the world with these different eyes. And I think you know, I talk about a lot how artists in general sit a little bit outside of mainstream society, and so they're observers in a lot of ways, and then they're filters, and they're reflecting back and interpreting, you know, what our culture is and what our lives are. And I feel that way with your work very frequently. It's not literal, you know, it's very emotional, but it's this painting behind you, for example, when I saw it online, I remember this feeling of just breathing out, you know, a physical response to the work. Um, and when you talk about, you know, people draped in the sheets, um, you know, there's a mourning and a sorrow. There's a sacredness in that space, and it feels. I almost hear a sound with that painting as well. And then you work with these very bright colors, right? Sometimes your palettes are really interesting. Can you talk about where that comes from as far as the colors you're using?
Absolutely. Thank you, Daisy. And first of all, I want to reflecting. You said so many wonderful things, uh, uh, and I agree, absolutely agree. When I felt through this technology and through effort, like people like you, to bring us together, I think it's really relevant, especially in such a difficult time. A little bit of hope is very, very necessary, because I felt that the candle in its brightest stage whilst everything's dark. Because in this moment, we can really appreciate, wow, people acute like you and many professional such as nurse, they put themselves online for others' benefits. I think without this coronavirus disaster, we might not value how much people have been given. Then thank you to your question too in term color palette. Um, I like drama. I like juxtaposition. Sometimes I'll be keep asking myself, what's the best way to show a black dot? Then the answer come to my mind is that the best way to show black dots is on a white background, the contrast, the juxtaposition. So a lot of time when I'm doing painting is that for the instant capture for viewer is something cheerful, bright color, because normally bright color referring to children's painting. Um, because they don't normally mix a paint, and then give you a quite fresh, happy experience. Then capture you. Then you look at, wait a minute, something's not right. Then I felt that could hit the viewer even stronger. So it's almost opposite sometimes what I want to try in terms trying to tell in narrative. Um, dark humor, yeah. I mean the black humor, yes.
Well, makes sense because, you know, at first, just referencing the work behind you, you see this bright green and yellow, you know, it's spring. Oh, it's spring colors, you know, and then the buildings almost look a little more like, oh, is that like an acid maybe? Or, you know, you start with the mood of the composition and the, you know, the theatrical sort of space you're creating. It really, you're right, it's juxtaposing the emotion of it with these sort of bright, happy, maybe colors we might associate. Um, that's really interesting to have you explain that. And so it sounds like it's sort of intuitive in a way, but you're also spending a lot of time thinking about high contrast, basically.
Yes.
Not just chroma, not just in the colors, but in emotional contrast, the pop that it provides for that theater that you're talking about.
Yes, thank you.
And how large is this piece behind you?
So this one is 5 foot by 6 foot. It's most of my painting is about 5 by 6 foot, and I trying to work with more different shape and size now, because I felt sometimes I felt is this in term the creativity or creation of any artwork. Why get used to a habit of doing something? Sometimes when things getting very smooth, that actually creating a scary feeling, thinking maybe I'm no longer using my brain, no longer using my intuitive to create anything, and just creating by habit. So so trying to bring a different size from now.
But how long have you been working with the 5 foot by 6 foot for a while now then?
Yes, almost 5 years.
Oh, it's interesting. Um, you know, I on the one hand, you want to have the flow, right? Like there is a element of creating where that comfort is can allow more to come out, but then you get to that balancing point where you're asking yourself, am I just creating these out of a habit, like you said? And so you're sounds like you want to sort of disrupt yourself a little bit.
I agree. And recently I had a conversation with another colleague of mine talking about the process of painting. A lot of artists, their process linear. They know from beginning to end, they know exactly where the painting going to be ended. Then both for our work, we talk about is that actually we are not really linear. Um, they're referring to me, think about the filmmaker Wong Kar-wai. I didn't know this, but actually Wong Kar-wai, when he direct a film, he only have 2 pages of script. Then the film take on. So sometimes his film take about 5 years to finish,
Wow.
and sometimes many important actor or actress in a film uh, play all along in a few years of working in the film, but in the editing he cut everything out just to maintain a clear story.
Do you have an editing process with your work? You know, do you have that? Because what you're describing is sort of almost generating um, uh, a larger canvas, basically, than working reductively, right? I'm speaking about film, but
Yeah, that's just yes. Um, when to finish, when call painting to finish is quote unquote finish. It's always the toughest question to myself. Really funny. Recently, I had a show in Utah. Um, the curator selected all the work, and most of them are pretty much old work. Then at least 2 of the painting I have to change it completely
Wow.
because yeah, and the father showed about start. I said, "Here is a work. Is still work?" I said, "Yes, still work." It's very nice. So I think a lot of time is that it's tough. Is that especially working the painting with emotional driven. I don't want to approach something that cheesy. Oh, come on, word is no, no, no. I think it's I have especially come to emotional painting. I need to make sure I control as much as possible. I do not want people carry a napkin walk into theater. That's not my goal. I want them to connect, but I need really making sure the level of giving the elements to intriguing people, the viewers' emotion is well controlled and balanced. Otherwise, just feel many work as a film, cheesy film that come on, bring a napkin to the theater.
It sounds like you're saying that balance for you between sort of cloying emotion or like too much of a heavy hand, um, and and sort of enough that it has a theatrical sort of uh, or emotional punch, but is a real balancing act. And I think for people who don't make art, you can have a hard time maybe understanding that when you look at a piece from, let's say, 4 years ago, you might feel like you've changed so much and you're like, oh, I wouldn't do that the same way now. So I can actually totally understand when you put your art out in the world and show it, it's representing you. And we are all changing every day, right? Certainly over
Yes,
4 years, you change a lot. Uh, and I know some artists actually destroy their old work because they can't handle that. It's like, I don't want to see that. It's sort of, um, I don't know, it's looking at your old hairstyles or what other ways we express the way we used to dress 20 years ago. I mean, like, whoa, what was I thinking, because ultimately your paintings are, they're an extension of you. And
I
I totally understand that.
thank you, thank you, Daisy.
As a curator, that's I think why my most preferred way of working with artists when I work on a show is to ask them what they're interested in right now, and then invite and open up a space where they can create new work, and of course bring funding for that, and a timeline so they make sure they have enough time to do that. Doesn't always mean only new work is ever good, but I do know that sometimes opening up that space is very interesting because it's sort of like taking a leap together and saying, I don't know what's going to come, but I'm trusting that this is going to come out of it. And the exhibition can be such a wonderful time to step back from your work. Because if your work is 5 foot by 6 foot, and then where is your studio? Are you making work in your university studio, or are you at your house, or like physically in your space? You're probably pretty compressed, right?
That's a great question. So I found out a secret, and is that a few years back, a friend of mine, he always showed up his finished painting, then put it away. Then I learned this trick. I finished one painting, then take out of structure bar, rolled it up, then put it away, then put a new painting. So I have about 11 5x6 structure bar always ready to go. And then when I finish, I roll them up and storage them.
Yeah, much easier to store. Otherwise,
Yes,
otherwise you'd have them all around you all the time. You'd be living with them, and that's the
yeah,
beauty of an exhibition space, right? Is you can lay them out, you can um, design the exhibition in a way where you tell a story with the artist, and um, but in a studio, yeah, it's sort of like having all your children like right on top of you or something.
I and that way actually save quite a bit money because you don't have to buy all the structure for each painting. And I found another thing is quite useful is that whenever I have a exhibition, like especially solo exhibition, and it comes to let's say going to uh, let's say London, if I had to ship the painting with structure on, the cost is probably more than the painting sold for. But it could be quite cheap. Is that I buy structure bar a good quality structure bar, then ship to the country, or buy structure bar in local place and call them up, then deliver the road painting to the gallery. And I can go there, even buy a flight, go there to install by myself. That cost is way much cheaper, especially come to large painting. At least it's museum, Andy Warhol established painter, then they could be able to do that. Otherwise, I think the many of us might be do this way could be pretty easy. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people have any idea how much it costs to ship a painting and make a crate and then ship a crate. And even if you do ship like FedEx or something, it's a lot. But then you worry like it's going to be lost forever. And so if you're using art handlers, it gets into the thousands. And that's very innovative of you. I think I love that artists are innovators. And so you found a way. Do you work primarily with oils or acrylics?
Acrylics.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Thank you, Daisy. Is that oil might be challenging to do to roll them up, especially if you paint thick. Acrylic, I heard, is much better. Comes to
flexible.
Yes, plastic. Yeah.
And then do you paint pretty thin as far as your layering and paint
Yeah,
up?
pretty thin actually. And if I have a thicker paint, I find maybe its personality of acrylic really become a pile of solid plastic. So even
Yeah.
the mud still okay, still okay. Yeah.
And so when you had your recent show you said you had some older work, how is that process for you? And you talked about redoing a couple of the paintings. How does it feel when you sort of unroll? You haven't seen them, some of them maybe since you made the paintings, and do you have like visual memory of them, or is it change, or what is that experience like when you see them all together?
It's quite a fascinating experience. Normally, I always keep an archive on my own website. Sometimes I felt the website I made it for myself, so therefore I can track all the work. But you are right, is that when I had a show, a lot of work felt almost like somebody else's work. I cannot look at my work actually before this series. Not necessarily I don't like it or anything. It just feels quite further distance, almost like work by a different artist. But this series, I think I connect to is because I keep them quite close. But even so, several painting felt, wow, I will never be able to do that again because my mindset is not anymore. I think that's one thing very compelling as artists is that being an artist is that you document not just your physical self because photograph can only capture image, but each painting capture almost like their diary to capture that stage of thinking, the stage of interest, the stage of taste. Everything's all present through the window of the painting. That being said, Daisy, I'm reflecting on this exhibition I recently have and looking at some of this work. One thing I think amazed me is that I think I'm getting closer to what am I looking for as a painter. Because when I decided to become a painter, that was 20 years ago. And back then, I really, again, it's really simple, really simple dream and a wish is that hopefully through this instrument, which is painting, this window, could help people connect. I don't know anything. I'm not wise to tell any wisdom, but I really hope this painting could be a window to connect people better. Just that wish, just like how the music connecting me to another part of the world. Because when I'm talking about the United States, England, yes, that's just outside shell. What's that really feel like? That's the music, it's part of the music to me. When I heard the Pink Floyd, even Kurt Cobain, right, I know, wow, that's how people feel and think. And do that through painting, not just presenting a shell. then then I think reflecting on this exhibition, I think I'm getting closer where I'm trying to be, because I felt when I was in my lowest point of self, I'll be really grateful if someone give me something to hold on to. Um, that something I can hold on to has to be the experience I share with this, or share or similar with this creator. And I really hope I can create a painting for the people sharing similar experience, almost like watching an independent film. Some independent film is not always pleasant to look at, but through this difficulty, you go through the similar trauma, then it's almost like washed away. It's almost like reflecting on a mirror, then it's gone. That's I heard from an independent filmmaker, not one guy, with what's his name? Cannot remember his name. It's from China too, but he's talking about independent film has to have that quality.
Yeah, I was just really, film is a great description of it. I think what I hear you saying ultimately is, thinking of your work and how it's communicating humanity, and you're sharing this shared humanness through the work that you're hoping connects with another human, basically, when they experience the work. And that's, I guess, ultimately the goal of art is to communicate and understand ourselves and each other and our time, and to develop empathy. I talk a lot about developing empathy through art, and especially if your work is operating in that sort of emotional realm that you're talking about, maybe these independent filmmakers working in that way. That makes sense to me. And now when I see your work, I'm going to think a lot about film. I know you talked about theater, but I do think there's a cinematic quality to a lot of it. It's telling the story that you can tell with the image, and then I start to hear the sound maybe too. So that was a great description too, like when you were young and you were trying to understand this culture, you were connecting through music first. And I often talk about what will be left after we're all gone that people will look at to understand us, and art is a big one. And but maybe right now that's the value, is to help understand each other and connect right now. Yeah, that's really powerful. Well, I want to wrap up here because we've been talking actually for a long time. It's really easy to we could just talk for hours. I really enjoy talking about your work. I've been asking every artist one question for right now, which is, during this time, what are some ways that people can support and help artists? You've talked about connecting, and but we can't go to the gallery to see your work. You do have a wonderful way of posting and sharing online that I really appreciate. But I'm wondering if you're seeing anything that is meaningful that people are doing to support or help artists, or anything you want to reflect on with that.
Thank you. And I think the virtual Zoom gallery tour has been quite helpful. I consider we are doing a similar thing too, because I think one thing to look at the scenario is that people have more time. Relative speaking, people have more time at home. They might be busy, but they could spend more time on their smartphone or technology devices. So in that could be a room for artists to share their work and talking with each other, talking with curator, talking to the gallery, and creating a sharing space. And second of all, financial support. I think many institutions have been really fortunate to support many artists. And another thing is that maybe this could be bring opportunity for artists work together, maybe in a virtual space, to brainstorm what other possibility to creating a financial model to support gallery and artists. Yes, Instagram is a good way. Our competition is another way. I think the Zoom meeting could be very helpful. But what other possibility? I'm not sure I have an answer for that yet. But I think every scenario will bring opportunity for creative people come up with new solution.
Yeah, what
Um,
I hear you saying is maybe this is a chance to think of some new ways. And that probably when we go back to normal, um, what we know is normal really won't, it has to change, right? And so we need to think of some new ways um, for artists to have maybe not just to sell work, but to connect, to share the work. I've
I,
even suggested to people, I'm not the only one that can set up a Zoom studio visit. Anybody, if someone is interested in your work, they could set this up with you anytime, from anywhere where they have an internet, so a connection. Um, but I hear what you're saying, that we're still all trying to figure. It's still developing.
right, right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. Really enjoyed talking to you about your art, and hope to see more of it, hopefully in person when we can gather in person soon.
Thank you so much, Daisy. Really appreciate.